Oops, I forgot to mention AK. Oops, sorry.
So it looks like we are live from the Campus Technology 2016 conference. We have AK on site with Stephen Downes and Amy Collier. I hope I pronounced Amy's last name right and I didn't get it wrong. If we could do a kind of introduction from Stephen and Amy as well as AK, and then we'll do Alan and Stephen, or Alan and Stephanie, and jump in. And I'll introduce myself last because I like to go last. You there, AK?
We are.
Hello.
Hi. So I'm Amy Collier. So I pronounce it Collier, but you can call me Collier. That's fine too. And I'm the Associate Provost for Digital Learning at Middlebury College.
Excellent. Thanks, Amy. Stephen's there.
So, hi, everyone. I sound very small on the screen. Oh, well. My name is Stephen Downes. I work with the National Research Council of Canada. I live just outside Ottawa in a small town called Castleton, which I last year. And what else? I just finished giving my talk here at the Campus Technology Conference.
And my name is AK, or Opoulos, and I work for UMass Boston, Federal Education Troublemaker.
Excellent. Excellent. Sounds a little low, so you might want to lean into the mic when you talk, and then we'll go with Alan.
Bonjour, I am Alan Levine. I feel like we're Frenchifying our names. I would hear AK doing that. Tune in from my home in Strawberry, Arizona.
And Stephanie.
I'm Stephanie Lewis. I'm tuning in from just outside Atlanta, Georgia. I'm a doc student looking at digital literacy and using technology in the English language arts classroom.
And a cat.
Excellent. So I'm Ken Bauer, also Canadian. I'm going to blame that on my mispronunciation of your last name, Amy. And Canadian, living in Mexico the last 21 years or so, teaching computer science and hanging out. So Stephen just gave a keynote, and we have Amy giving a keynote tomorrow that I'm really interested in. So why don't we talk about what happened this morning?
Oh, it was madness and chaos.
There was quite a lot on the Twitter stream. I kind of felt all alone, though. Yesterday there seemed to be more people tweeting. Today I felt like the lone wolf, but I guess I'm the troublemaker, so why not?
No, it's a pretty strange Twitter stream. It is pretty quiet.
It is pretty quiet.
Yeah, which is kind of strange for a conference.
It seems quiet except that robot that keeps kind of repeating someone's conversations that we noticed yesterday. So how was the feeling in the room with your keynote this morning, Stephen? Did you shock and awe people?
No, I think it was okay. I got a lot of good comments after, so that's often a guide, although, you know, you never get the bad comments, so you can't really tell for sure. It was a bit of a new topic for me because I went off on the concept of innovation and disruptive innovation and all of that, basically labeling the concept very conservative and more about preserving what we have now as opposed to changing. And so I went into a discussion of transformation defined as the change in the benefit or even the location of the benefit as opposed to simply better ways of producing existing benefits. So that's the talk in a nutshell. And then there was a lot of epistemology thrown in.
And there was a little thread of that yesterday in the tech panel in the afternoon, that small c conservatism with new technologies, trying to replicate the existing versus trying to do something different or reconceptualizing.
So, I mean, and it's the sort of thing I've talked about a lot over the years, just informally, you know, the whole idea that the primary purpose of the university system is to serve, you know, upper middle class and you know, the kids of upper middle class and wealthy people, and that's basically what it's built on. And that's what, you know, when people sample or survey user needs, those are the people they're asking, and they're never asking the people who aren't in the system.
What's the is the audience like admins and technical folks, or they're? Well, I don't even know what the flavor of campus tech is.
I get the sense, and I did a workshop, so I talked to them a little bit of detail earlier. I get the sense that they're campus technology managers. So they'd be the people, managing the LMS installation, making the SAS, stuff like that. That's the sense I get. So.
I get that sense too, and I've noticed, I looked through the program really closely to see what I wanted to try to attend, and there are a lot of kind of co-led sessions between, say, a company, an ed tech company, and a person from an institution who may be implementing that piece. And that is unusual for the kinds of conferences I typically attend, and I am a little quiet. A little is probably an understatement. So I find that to be a little troubling.
And so
anecdotally, go ahead, Alan.
Oh, and Amy's going to talk about love tomorrow, right?
That's right. Which I get the sense that a lot of people in the room will probably not connect with it. And I mentioned somebody asked me.
I'm all about that. I'm all about that, Amy.
Well, they might need that.
Yeah, don't cater to them.
Yeah.
That's gonna happen. But I was talking to somebody mentioning Gardner Campbell's taxonomy of student engagement that I'm going to reference tomorrow in the talk, and I said something about the ongoing interest in using technologies for the purposes of compliance as kind of the basic need that people associate with technology, or at least the basic way in which we implement it. And a fellow at the table who I was talking to really didn't get it, just really was not connecting with what I was saying, and was very confused about the notion of why wouldn't we seek compliance. And I think we were talking on different planes. I think, I was talking about the notion around student engagement and education. I think he was talking more about tech compliance to standards and protocols and things that I don't know how to do at all. So I think we were just completely different planets.
And from the sort of informal take, having been to Campus Tech for the past 4 or 5 years, since it's in Boston, I can make it quite easily. I get the sense that this year in particular, the audience is much more focused on the tech implementation, nuts and bolts, whereas in previous years, that grenade comment that George mentioned yesterday, last year that would have gotten rippling. And there was a president from a local university, local New England university, who made a comment along those lines, disruption in the hiring practices for faculty, and the room really rippled. I mean, there wasn't a big whoa, but there was an audible grumble, whereas this year it's much more focused on the nuts and bolts, and I think the audience may be changing slightly.
So do you think there's something that has prompted that AK? By the way, I'm Autumn Keynes from Columbus, Ohio. I'm sorry I was late. I had another meeting that I was in. But yeah, I'm just kind of curious because I've never been to Campus Tech before, and so I don't know if that's if it wasn't like that in previous years and it's like that now. I mean, do you see anything else that might align with that, or is there maybe a stronger vendor presence, or is there been some change in the leadership, or is there anything else going on in the background that maybe we wouldn't be aware of that sort of aligns? I mean, it seems like a shift.
Well, from my observation, at the vendors, it seems like their presence is much less this year. In previous years, the vendor hall was much bigger, and you saw many more companies showing products that they may have, and a lot of them were aimed at student engagement. And I think more faculty maybe came out for something like that. But when you have, let's say, wireless or maybe infrastructure, cabling,
printers.
AV,
Printers.
Maybe that gets the IT guys going. It's like, yes, we need this. We need terabit internet now. But not necessarily the people who are teaching and, okay, give me terabit internet. What do I do with it in my classroom?
I don't know if anyone recalls, but the Campus Technology Conference many years ago used to be called Syllabus. And it was probably like maybe 10 years. Years ago, and I think the nature of, maybe because they've become more, as you said, a publication platform. The conference is run by a
Advertisers.
yes, exactly. Well, and it's run by like a company that does conference. It's not put on by a professional organization, say like As Your Cause. So it just has a little different flavor to it than what I remember years ago when it was called Syllabus. It was very much about the people who are at the forefront of trying these things out in education coming together and talking about that. I think that's changed quite a bit.
Wow, I had no idea. I went to Syllabus a couple times in the mid-90s, and I know exactly what you're saying.
So there's a bit of a
kind of wondering if Abel.
Go for it, AK. I was going to bring up your conversation yesterday about bringing in instructional designers as being an answer to the researcher not knowing pedagogy. And then I kind of jumped on that. You said that might bring up a conversation today. I was just remembering because I'm got a big problem with that.
Tell us what your problem is, and we'll jump off from that.
Well,
jump all over it.
Well, I don't want researchers giving classes if they don't really want to be there giving classes, because I've got the bias that I'm in an institution where research is at the bottom of the barrel of importance, and the teaching is much more important to me. And I have a problem with instructional designers just coming in and just redesigning the course without it being a team development project and not, hey, we're just going to do this for you. So, but that might be my reading on that statement that AK kind of put out from yesterday's one of the sessions, I guess.
At least Elaine just had a great post on that about almost how a lot of pedagogy is being ripped out of the way she sees instructors' hands.
Right. And maybe it's my bias that the instructional designer is just going to top-down design and compartmentalize my course as opposed to leaving the love in it.
Or just purchase
Alan wants a
curriculum.
definition of that acronym LOVE for me as well.
No acronym.
No acronym. So the context for that
Good.
Openness, virtuosity,
Engagement, environment.
Learning
Write my
objects.
talk now.
She's changing her slides as we speak.
It's learning objects, Stephen. You got to get the VE of virtual environment. Learning object, virtual environment. There was a Love Cop working group in EDUCAUSE. Learning object, virtual community of practice. I remember that.
Oh my God, that sounds like something from South Park.
It was horrible.
So the context of yesterday's comment was it was kind of debunked in the afternoon, but anyway, a large cost of higher ed is the faculty. That was the thesis.
Right.
So we can't hire more faculty, but we want to offer more classes so that we can make colleges more affordable. So we're hiring instructional designers to help faculty who are not pedagogically aware.
Right.
Of course, that's really problematic because you're not really seeing a partnership there. There are two things that I saw. One is seeing the partnership, and two, the implication was that the instructional designer would have a small group of people, 5 to 10 faculty, that they can have this little community and they can work together. But the reality is when institutions they have an instructional designer and 100 faculty, and then it becomes a replication of that, large lecture hall, except that it's the instructional designer at the front and not the teacher. So that was my issue with it, but I'll hand it off.
That sounds an awful lot like what has happened in the secondary schools. And it has not done us well when we turn everything over to some designer person and take out the passion of learning.
Yeah. One thing I'd like to see more, and I'm trying to push in our institution, we're a huge institution with 32 campuses across the country, is setting up more of a mentorship between faculty that are really good teachers and have a good relationship with their classroom and want to work with others, as opposed to hiring some experts that can kind of do that on the side. Of course, we're not doing that here, which kind of sucks, but I'd like to see it happen.
Yeah, I wonder if it comes back to and I think, Ken, very much like you, I'm at a teaching institution, so, I've got the luxury of having some people who are maybe more focused on teaching. I've definitely got some people who are also interested in, you know, like purchasing a curriculum in a box through a publisher or something like that and just deploying that. And I mean, you know, you've got some people who are interested in that kind of thing. But, you know, yesterday on Twitter, and I was just like watching some of the stuff coming by, and I was just a little bit horrified. I'll just say, and somebody tweeted back to me. I didn't respond to them, but they said, you know, most of our faculty, you know, and I'm at a research institution, they're not interested. They're just not interested in teaching. It's not, you know, a priority for them. So I wonder how much of it really comes down to environment, and maybe I'm just talking from a privileged point of view. I don't know.
Yeah, that's it.
Thanks, Stephen.
Stephen lays it down. Awesome. The Twitter stream's actually starting to get pretty active on Campus Tech now.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Are they talking about us?
Presence and acceptance of technology is beginning to be a factor in how students select a college. Hashtag Campus Tech.
What's that based on?
I have no idea.
Yes.
You made that point during the panel yesterday as well.
Yeah, the anecdote was child got accepted into school with full scholarship, but basically told, leave your tech at the door. Child comes back home and says, I'm not going there, I'm going to this other school, which is closer to home, but it costs more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No one's going to jump
Maybe true,
in.
maybe not. Induction based on a case of one, but...
So tell us about love, Amy. Let's get the foreshadowing for tomorrow. You know.
Preview of tomorrow.
Give us a preview.
Yeah.
Draw us in.
Sure. So the notion of love, I think, in this particular talk comes out of the, as I mentioned before, Gardner Campbell's student engagement taxonomy that he presented about, and at the very top of that taxonomy was the notion of love. And what I'm going to do in the talk is pair it with the with the notion of risk in education. And I'm going to talk specifically about Gert Biesta's book, The Beautiful Risk of Education, where he talks about how in education we've really taken out the risks. We've created this kind of input-output model. You put in all the right ingredients, and out comes the students with exact learned, you know, outcomes that you expected, and how that really misses the deep point of education. And so I'm going to tie that notion of accepting and embracing risk. I'm going to talk a little bit about not yetness in that, and then how that creates the space for love in education. And love can be a lot of different things, and I'll talk about 4 specific areas. Love is play, love is risk.
Love is a battlefield.
No.
Love is all you need.
Yes, love is all you need. I could sing and sing all day, believe me.
It's a playlist.
Hey, you should sing your...
That'd be awesome. I'll go Dr. Horrible. How do we actually do that?
Do you think backup singers?
Yeah, right. I want to be a backup singer. I don't
Amy and the doo-wops.
You know, and then I'm going to talk about resistance, love is resistance, and I think I'm going to bring it back. I mean, they asked me to talk about, you know, the people who lead technology on their campuses or digital learning efforts on their campus. What is the message that they can take away with them? And I guess what I want to encourage them to do is to make space for more emergence, make space for more not yetness, make space for more openness and love and creative resistance to the dominant ways in which we're thinking about our institutions. And I think I'm going to end, I haven't decided yet, I probably should decide at some point today, that I think I'm going to end with like a little mini manifesto. I was, a personal manifesto, I mean, like I wouldn't expect that anyone would adopt exactly this manifesto, but I was reading the tattooed professor's recent manifesto that he wrote. Excellent, tweeted out somebody. It's really good. And I was thinking about the idea that I am a senior administrator at a campus, you know, higher education campus, where I'm preaching love and emergence, and you know, I run across board members who who believe the narrative of disruption in education, the one that you so pointedly push back against, and I really appreciated that. And so my biggest tension in my work is to negotiate between this preaching of love, resistance, emergence, complexity, and the embracing of things against this narrative that exists about, well, we're being disrupted and we got to change, we got to move, and we got to do all these things. And so, I live in the tension, and my manifesto, I hope, will at least try to capture how I try to embody the things that I believe in my work. And I don't think I'm perfect by any means, but the people who work with me say have affirmed that you can embody, live appreciating complexity and emergence in your work. And so that's what I'm trying to do.
Sounds wonderful. I want to be there.
Right? Is anybody going to stream your talk?
What? I don't know.
I'll be in the room.
That was a little hint, just so you know.
It's not like
it's
a tech conference or anything where they can do this.
Here's these live streaming tools we have these days on the internet.
I'm kind of curious, Amy. How's that message playing out at Middlebury? I mean, as a new person there, and I mean, what's the reaction when you're trying to get that message out?
And where is Middlebury?
Middlebury is in Vermont, middle of the state, Vermont. I think faculty and a lot of the people that I work with on a day-to-day basis, the instructional designers I hired, the faculty I work with, even some of the administrators I work with, really get it. And I think that Middlebury is a place that I think embraces a lot of these perspectives. It's a liberal arts education institution, so in many ways what I'm talking about is liberal arts education, at least as we originally conceived it, to be a liberatory way of working with students to help them transform and to be ready activists in that society. And so I think a lot of people resonate with what I'm talking about. I think boards more struggle with it. They see themselves as the fiduciary overseers of institutions, and they are, and for the most part. And they don't want to get left behind. They don't want the institution to disappear in 20 years. Their focus is a little different.
So, I'm all about the love, Amy, and I'm in a large institution. I actually just talked to some public educators in Mexico about flip class mostly, but my version of flip class, not just focusing on the videos, about the love and getting my students to share. And I might want to do that, and the teachers want to do that, and maybe at the high level, like you mentioned, the philosophy of the institution is let's go that way. But there's usually a big line of middle management between, and maybe have you seen as that being part of the impediment to making this happen?
Middle management where?
Well, department chairs.
Well, are you talking about dean level?
Well, sure, a department chair and all the way up. I mean, there's probably 6 levels of management between me and the head rector of our institution here. And so, who's being evaluated on your teaching evaluations, you reach this magic number, you no longer give classes. And there tends to be a lot of fear in educators to innovate because of what comes down at that level.
Sure. Well, I love what Stephen said today in his talk about how you can think about drivers of innovation and of transformation, but they're also attractors, and a lot of times those things are values and things that we genuinely care about and believe about what we're trying to do. And what I've tried to do in my work is to meet with those folks who could be resistant or could have concerns or feel pressures from drivers that may be real, sure, but that are maybe the threat is more perceived as as stronger than what it actually is. And I try to talk to them about their values, and I try to help think through what exactly are we trying to do here? Why are you in this business in the first place? When students leave, what kinds of students, what kinds of of citizens do you want to be out there in the world, responsible for the next generation of politics and economics and social well-being and cultural connection? And so if those are your values, then how can we think about working together to change according to those values?
Yeah.
And I think it was Stephen yesterday, either on the Twitter stream or somewhere, I think you said you don't necessarily change the system from within established practices, you just work toward making it obsolete. Mm-hmm. And I think that I'm sort of in my current frame of mind is if the middle management, then you make their type of thinking obsolete, grassroots movement, and having faculty just do it, and students just do it, and then the technologists kind of follow along and just do it, and then at some point you have the masses just making the entire previous system obsolete and transforming it into something new.
I think he's telling that we held up the sign said chat, and now we can't hear him speaking. But I think
we're just muted because we didn't want to cause an echo, and Ken's just reminding himself to copy the chat because you'll lose it.
Oh. As soon as you close the session, you lose the back channel, and I forgot yesterday.
Oh, really? Oh, that's annoying.
Yeah, it's kind of a bummer.
Awesome. So we're doing for time there, AK, Amy, and Stephen, because we're up on the half hour. I don't want to hold you from going to sleep.
Oh, I'm fine.
Okay. Lunch starts in 15 minutes, so
then we can keep going.
15 minutes.
What's for lunch?
So I would say we're on the level.
What's for lunch? Sorry, Otto.
Mystery meat.
Oh no.
Chicken.
But I'm vegetarian.
Conference chicken. Beware the conference chicken.
I call conference chicken crispy.
So are you taking any good photos there, Stephen? There was a question about you taking good photos on site.
Yes.
Abby has a question.
Abby has a question.
I'm a live connector. I'm a former student of Rebecca's.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Wow.
Stephen, Mike, you talked about thinking about changing the benefits of innovation, not trying to just innovate to sustain benefits. And the thing that really caught my attention was talking for people who aren't in the system yet. And at UMass Boston, I spend a lot of time thinking about that. I teach kind of a remedial writing course. I watch students dropping out or on the verge of dropping out. And I was just curious. I wanted to hear more what you thought about those students who are, these are not welcome to the 24, these are returning adults, these are moms, students. I don't know, I think about them a lot. What you were thinking about them and innovation.
I think about them a lot. And part of it is personal because I didn't matriculate high school properly. I did eventually, but I had a 5-year gap between high school and getting into university, and then it was as a non-matriculated adult with student loans that I spent the next couple of years paying off. And then in the work that I did work with First Nations people in northern Alberta who were definitely not part of the Yale Act. And in Manitoba, I worked with the Brandon Adult Learning Center, getting with people who fell off the track. This matters to me. And, the people who get to go to, especially the residential universities, that's a small sector, a very privileged sector of society. And I think it's ridiculous to design the entire system around them. And in fact, I had to make a decision at a certain point, specifically while I was studying for my PhD in Boston, whether I wanted my career to be serving those people or working toward the wider community. And obviously I picked the wider community. Their needs are different, right? Their needs are very concrete. They're changing, they're evolving, and they're everything from they worked in fisheries for 30 years, and now there's no more fish. What do? They need to repair their lawnmower. They need to upgrade their literacy skills. I can just list the whole range of things. A lot of their applications also are important, and we dismiss that, right? But people who are not rich also deserve to have hobbies and interests and passions and all of that, and these are completely unserved, like in the community, and I think that's ridiculous. So that, right? And I think that the traditional university system, simply because of cost and lack of access and even more lack of relevance, is going to face an existential threat at a certain point. An existential threat not as a result of revolt from within or whatever, but as a result of irrelevance. And the work that I'm doing, this is another aspect of it. Like, we talk about creating equity of access to education as though what that means is giving people the same content, right? Or even testing them and getting the same learning outcomes, as though that's what you get from Yale, right? But I studied philosophy at the University of Calgary, and when all of these OpenCourseware stuff came online, I went and looked at MIT and Harvard and the rest, and they're studying the same subject, the same books, right to a T. They're coming out with the same content I did. But they're graduating from Harvard, MIT, and I'm graduating from the University of Calgary. And I know they got something I didn't, which is why they pay for that. And that something is what I want people who are not on the upper middle class, higher income back. That's where I want them to get. I want to make the Yale advantage irrelevant. And that's a core part of what I'm up to. And that Yale advantage is we are the people who have power, right? We are the people who network, scratch each other's back, help each other's career, right? That's what I'm trying to short circuit.
One of the things you said in your talk that I think really resonated with a lot of people in the room and gets to this point is and it was up on your slide too, you said, personalized learning is something we impose on people. We set these really rigid outcomes of what we expect a learned person has, and those things could be anywhere, right? And I would say this is one of the applications of technology, very cheaply kind of put people through the system, right? And then we send them out on their way. And one of the things that I think people at privileged institutions get that people who are not at privileged institutions don't get is a call to empowerment, to be resistant to dominant ideologies, to be able to have a voice in public spheres. Those are things that don't get taught through personalized learning, but personal learning, as you said in your slide, and as you said out loud, that is about empowering the individual to be part of this society.
And that's been, with respect to the traditional system, that's an incredibly subversive act.
Right, absolutely.
And this ties into, I forget what slide it was the storytelling to working the fields to the factories to higher ed or academia. And I was just thinking, partly because I was listening to a retro gaming podcast talking about SimCity and how...
During my talk?
No. I can multitask. It was on my way here from home. But it was talking about SimCity and looking at how talk to one another. And, one side would work with another, and I'm thinking, oh, higher ed, K through 12. What you do in K through 12 to prepare you for college, then you're thinking about K through 12 as a system, and what is the goal of that system, and we should be pushing that person to K 12 as well, because then you are enabling better informed learners and citizens.
I I think one of the things that you said that is really something that we need to circle back to frequently is the idea that equity is not sameness. If we want individuals and we want individual identities, we need to get rid of the idea that we all have to be the same. And I think that's something that we forget very often in education, especially when we're dictated to by standardized testing and by publishing companies and things of that nature. That identity is individual. It's not sameness. So how can equity be sameness if we're all different?
Yeah, I agree.
I think that's one of the reasons why, and I think I'm planning to talk about this tomorrow, is, in many ways the technologies that we use for personalized learning end up really devaluing the role of the teacher. They end up, because a student can just kind of navigate their way to the outcomes that we've laid out for them. The teacher is kind of just there to maybe unplug some bottlenecks and things like that. But in a personal learning where it's about empowering the student to have voice, it's about not sameness, but about really embracing diversity and what people bring to the table, the teacher plays a critical role in that and should be one of the most important people in a student's and in a person's life in that way. And we can all name teachers where we had that, or many of us can name teachers if we're lucky at this point. Name teachers who gave us that sense of personhood and coming into being and voice that without it, I feel like we're really losing out in our educational systems, both K-12 and higher education. We're losing that. I think the teacher's research loses that, right?
I see that as a responsibility of the society, but not just the teacher.
Sure. But I think we're missing that connection of society to educational systems.
Oh yeah.
Right.
So this is where I feel like higher education needs to step up, right? Because we need to realize that the idea of a teacher can happen in a classroom, but it can happen anywhere. And we need teachers in higher education, right? If we're going to bring people in, if we're going to matriculate people in and make them a part of this community that we're going to build for them, if we're going to charge them money for this, right? We need to step up our game and realize that a teacher isn't somebody who just delivers content. A teacher isn't just somebody who purchases a curriculum from a publisher and puts it in a learning management system and says go, right? A teacher has to be somebody who is a real person, who will have conversations with you, who will care about you, who will, on the higher end of that taxonomy, love you. Exactly. And if we can't give that to our students, then I feel like we're failing.
And it brings up the common phrase of if you can be replaced by a YouTube video, you should be. And it came to my point, Amy, I was going to ask is I've got a blog post about that, my students reacting to this, that I'm not teaching them and they're paying me to deliver content to them, which makes me scream and pull my hair out. But it brings it to a good point, and I published about this, and I put the students' comment there. It's in Spanish, so you have to translate. But they feel that it's my job to shovel content into them, and they're wrong, and a lot of my administrators think they're wrong, but how do we get the students on board with this is sometimes one of our toughest chores here. I wasn't muted, right?
The conversation we have with our students, right, is that we have to be willing to take the risk of having the conversations about what exactly are we doing in educational environments, and that's a risky conversation, and you're taking a risk by doing this in your class, and being transparent about that, I think, is really good.
I'm sharing that mug again, which Alan has one as well from Paulo Freire, which is in Spanish, and saying teaching is not the transfer of knowledge, it's creating the possibilities of production and construction.
Yeah, a lot of it comes back to that idea of the transactional idea of education.
How are we doing, AK, for time?
He's trying to leave.
We're okay.
Trying to leave? You guys want your mystery chicken lunch?
It might be lobster.
Squishy.
Get in line for the lobster, man.
Mystery chicken is lobster-like.
This got me thinking. Where do students, especially first-gen students, which first-gen going to college, get this notion of instructor being there to deliver content and the instructor as an infallible being, be they human or non-human.
I don't think they get that impression.
But I was sort of thinking on my own cultural background. My grandparents, one of them was completely illiterate. The other one finished middle school, maybe trade school, and then off to ships.
Ships are good.
Ships are good. Hard work.
Yeah.
But they always revered the teacher and somebody who went to college and putting them up on a pedestal. And for them, it was content. And I think they were thinking about those tacit things that Stephen was talking about earlier, but they never really had the vocabulary to explain why somebody who's college educated was a big deal, so they always defaulted to content, and I feel that that's what was pushed down to at least my generation. I don't know if that's true for students of other cultural contexts.
You know, I think, and I'm speculating here, but I talk about the Yale advantage, right? And because, there is a Yale advantage. I actually don't know what it is. I can sort of figure it out, but, because I don't have it, right? I never went to Yale. I've never even stepped foot on the campus. All I can judge is the results, George W. Bush and all that. So it would be hard for me to articulate just what that advantage is. And in fact, even now, I'm just working on an educated guess. And so it's the sort of thing where if you don't have that thing, you don't even have the words to describe what the thing is. And so you come to the closest analogy or the closest metaphor you have, and in their lives, their existence, their education, what they got was content. And so it must be more content. Now that's a total speculation. I'm completely wrong. But there is this sense, I think that's true, that if you don't have that advantage, you can't describe it.
So are you kind of saying that, just to try to summarize, that a lot of the tech innovations that are out there are all about delivering content? The concept is we're going to deliver content better.
Yeah.
What you're saying is that what education does for people is it changes them into something, into some professional or into this Yale certified thing.
Yes.
And that a lot of technology innovation thinkers aren't thinking about that process of change, of development into something.
Yeah, that's a really good summary.
And so, that's a reason that innovation is sort of producing more of the same, and nothing is really disrupting or transforming.
And if I was really cynical, which I am sometimes, I would argue a lot of that innovation is in order to prevent the other thing from happening, right? Give them, quote unquote, personalized learning, because if we don't do that, they might end up making the Yale advantage thing for themselves.
And yet all the people who like the Yale advantage, well, big summation, but I bet they have a strong reaction when they watch Good Will Hunting.
Well, and they've taken this idea of personalized learning and turned it into something else, right? Oh, whoa, you guys have like a new lighting.
The disco room.
Like that's the
disco room.
Queue or something.
Is that a queue you guys need to clear out?
Looks like they're getting the next session ready.
It's crazy that they've taken this idea of personalized learning, kind of co-opted and taken that word. And I wonder if we can kind of take back disruption, if we can disrupt disruption with the idea of love. I'm just gonna leave that.
Oh, nice.
Disruptive love.
That sounds like part of the manifesto for tomorrow, Amy.
Wait, disrupt love?
Reclaim disruption.
They can
reclaim disruption.
They can keep disruption. Who wants that word anyhow?
Edu troublemakers.
It's a movement. You want a disruptive movement.
I think
Go in the bathroom.
I like, let's think post-Christensen, less transformation.
All right, right on.
Well, I should let us wrap up. So why don't we let Amy and Stephen have last words here? And I didn't catch the name of the other person there. All I see is Edu troublemaker when she's talking.
Abby.
It's Abby.
Abby?
Oh,
Thanks,
Abby.
Abby.
I
Great
follow
points.
you guys on Twitter.
Thanks, Abby.
Abby who? Abby Maxim.
Introduce yourself, Abby.
Abby Yale.
Oh. I'm not Yale. I am a teacher at UMass Boston, and I'm also an instructional design student. I was Rebecca's student in the spring, and she's hooked me up with a lot of this stuff.
Awesome.
And AK.
Yes. Awesome.
And apparently an edu troublemaker that's under you right now.
All of
Excellent.
you are edu troublemakers.
I think we all are. Any last words there, Stephen and Amy, before we close this up for you?
I don't know. Cool.
I don't have anything
You get your last word
specific.
tomorrow.
That's right.
Stay tuned. Tomorrow at noon
Save all my
or
words.
11. Tomorrow at 11.
11.
On
11.
Periscope, courtesy of Stephen.
Love it. Thank you guys so much for taking some time to talk to us.
You need
Excellent.
Google Hangout. I don't use Periscope because it's bad technology.
Right on.
And if I have a last word, it's this. It's all a work in progress. It's still a work in progress.
And I will also let you go. AK, go ahead. I'm gonna mention the
Just
later
jumping
session.
off what Stephen said, we'll channel the Mythbusters. Failure is always an option.
Excellent. Thank you so much for joining us, Stephen and Amy and Abby and AK, live from Boston, Campus Technology 2016.
Thanks,
Bye,
guys.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. And I'll mention as well for anyone who's listening, or if you're still listening, we've got 4 viewers. Today at 4 p.m. Eastern, we have Autumn hosting with Rebecca Peterson. from
That's
the
right.
conference.
I'm
So if
excited.
anyone wants to join,
I've
I'm
never
joining
done
there, and I don't get to run the show. I can just like make wisecracks and be a troublemaker
Keep me on my
while
toes.
you run.
You're well
Excellent.
suited for that role, Ken.
I try. Rabble rousing. Awesome. Thanks everyone for joining. I don't know if we've got any wrap up post. That sure
Maybe.
went longer than I expect normally to.
You know, sometimes it feels long when you look at the clock, but then when you think about the conversation, it feels like there could have been more, you know? But it is what it is.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. I was kind of thinking they want to go half an hour or so,
Yeah.
and then get back to things. But wow, I was just
I love
roll.
just you never know what you're going to talk about exactly, you know, and that's the exciting part.
Well, that's the awesome thing about connecting virtually.
It's a real conversation.
Yeah.
Mhm. It is.
All right,
And
I
it's-
have to run to work, so bye all.
See ya,
Bye,
Stephanie.
Stephanie.
Thanks for joining.
Thanks
Yeah,
a
I'm
lot.
gonna have to run too. But
Okay.
Ken, thank you for hosting. Alan, always great to see you. And yeah, I'll
And
see
I'm
you
gonna
at
remember to
4
copy
o'clock.
paste this chat. Yeah.
Don't forget to copy and paste the chat.
I got the sticky right here.
You got it? Are you going to get it? Do I have to have
Yeah,
you
I got it, buddy.
Okay.
You're gonna be my backup.
Because I have never remembered in my life to copy the chat.
Remembering Agora. All right, I'm gonna kill the broadcast. Thanks for joining, and talk to you soon.